Hi everyone, I hope you're well. I just thought I'd send a quick video update following last night's federal budget. We should in a little while get from our friends at Colonial a more detailed written summary as well, and I'll shoot that out by email, but I thought it would be worthwhile to check in, say hello, and send a bit of a brief summary on some of the points that might affect our clients, the people who'll see this video, and you guys, the people we chat to all the time. I should mention, of course, as well as usual, that this video is just general advice, just talking about what happened last night, relaying information. It doesn't consider anybody's personal circumstances, so of course we should incorporate these things that are relevant into our conversations. And we'll look forward to doing that, of course, very soon. It was framed as the main focus was on easing the cost of living, which has been on the front of everybody's minds for 18 months pretty much now, as inflation's started racing along. So the things I think that'll be relevant to most viewers, most clients, are there's a $500 energy bill relief that'll come along. It'll be deducted from the bill, and that is for eligible recipients, which include people who receive pensions from Centrelink or get the Commonwealth Seniors Health Card, family tax A and B benefits. There's also a $650 payment to eligible small business there as well. There's been a lot of talk about that 60-day pharmacy prescription proposal policy. That's up to doctors, of course. They can prescribe 2 months worth of certain medications instead of 1 month, which will save people around $180 a year, they estimate. That comes in from 1st of September 2023. And it's probably relevant to point out at this stage that all of these things really are proposals. They have to be formally legislated. There's also, on the medical front, bulk billing incentives, a lot of extra money being put to incentivise GP practices to provide more bulk billing services, and that's going to be higher in rural and regional areas, which sounds reasonable, fair enough. As far as superannuation goes, I've chatted to a lot of people over the last year or more about that where you draw an allocated pension has that minimum legislated requirement, depending on your age, for the amount of money you must take each year. That was not mentioned at all. For the last few years it's been halved, so someone who might have to take 5% per year, if you're aged between 65 and 74, has been able to draw as little as 2.5%. As their annual drawdown. Of course, it's guided by how much the household needs for income, but there was no mention of that, so it seems very likely that that will return to its pre-COVID, if you like, legislated levels from the 1st of July this year. Like I said, not legislated yet, still time to change, but it seems unlikely given it wasn't mentioned last night. Along similar lines to, there's that transfer balance cap, which may not resonate with a lot of you watching this, but for people with $1.9 million in pension accounts, well, the limit for tax-free was $1.7 million. It's been scheduled to increase to $1.9 million from the 1st of July. There'd been talk recently that that might be put on hold. No mention of it last night, so once again we expect that that will come into play from the 1st of July. There's time to change their mind, but that again seems unlikely, at least. Of course that won't affect everybody, but for those people who it does affect, we'll have conversations about that. It's very complicated now, very complex indeed, how much money you can shift into tax-exempt pension phase, so it requires very specific calculation and consideration on a case-by-case. Another important thing that's been proposed, although it doesn't come in until 2026, 3 years away, is that employers pay your employer super contributions to employee super funds the same day as they make the pay. On payday, so I think that's a really good rule. Doesn't come in, like I said, till July 2026, and even then, at the moment, it doesn't mention salary sacrifice payments either. I would suggest only then that people who are working and receive money from their employer, which is everybody who's working, should keep an eye on that and keep it in the back of your mind. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of employers start doing it earlier just because it gets their cash flow right, and you know, it's probably the right thing to do anyway. More talk around superannuation, and there's been a lot of it in the last couple of months, and I did a little video about it a month or 6 weeks ago, I think, is about that people with superannuation balances of $3 million or more, and how the tax concession will be reduced, which means that instead of being all 15% tax rate, it'll that bit above 3 million will be taxed at 30% now, which is still better than marginal tax rates. Once again, doesn't apply to everybody, I know, and those people it does apply to will have conversations. There are other strategies, and in front of all of that is the fact that it's still not legislated. When the legislation's presented is when we all expect to see the details around it. So there's not much point in wasting too much mental energy on that at the moment. We'll wait and see what happens. Presuming it does go through, it'll be coming into play from the 1st of July 2025. So that's still 2 years away as well. There are a few self-managed super fund related things around non-arm's length income and how that's treated. Once again, very specific, so I won't slow the video down with too much talk on that except to flag it. For anyone who's interested, there'll be more detail on that in the written summary that I'll shoot around as soon as it's available. Regarding tax, I won't touch too much on this except to say that the stage 3 tax cuts, which were due to come into play in about a year's time, 1st of July 2024, been a lot of talk about those and if they're too generous and if we can still afford them, not mentioned last night. So at this point at least it seems like they're underway, and that gives tax cuts for people earning basically $45,000 or more. The more you earn, the greater the dollar value of a tax cut. What I would say too is that's more than a year away, and we've got another budget between now and then, so who knows, but we'll wait and see. Importantly, for people earning $48,000 to $120,000, up until this coming June, next month, there'd been a low to medium or low to middle income tax offset, which was worth anywhere up to $1,500 a year depending on your income. And that was brought in as a temporary measure a few years ago and has not been mentioned, is not expected to be renewed. So people earning that rate there, you know, not high income earners, honest workers battling away, they'll notice that they are paying more tax effectively as well from 1st of July. If the stage 3 tax cuts do play out, then that will soak up some of that difference, not all of it. But again, too, there's a year's gap, so it'll impact on some people for sure. There was a fair bit of Centrelink stuff there to do with easing the cost of living, and that has been pretty well covered. A number of supports and allowance packages, particularly for young people, have been increased, which is again probably a good thing from a social front. Excuse me. Aged care, there's been a lot of money put into aged care, and this has mainly been designed around supporting the recommendations from the Royal Commission last year, so that those recommendations can be funded properly. And they're to do with increasing wage. Well, that was a separate thing, increasing the wages, but which is great. But also money to support the recommendations about the rating system for aged care facilities, monitoring registrations of centres and professionals who work there, and also a fair bit on the younger people in residential aged care as well. So a lot more money being funneled that way. And look, there's a lot of other stuff too about it. There's electric vehicle discounts. There's a bit more small business tax stuff, incentives for these build-to-rent projects, tax incentives there, working with state and local councils to get that moving to try and ease the housing problem. So again, interesting detail if that's something that takes your fancy. So there'll be more on that coming out as soon as I can. I think the takeaway is really in all of that, and we're just hitting 10 minutes, so that's enough for a video. This stuff is yet to be legislated. It'll go through, there'll be more detail to come, and the main thing is where it's relevant to you, we'll incorporate it into our regular conversations, and that's the best and only way really to make sure we're implementing things properly for you. I hope that was useful. Good to catch up, and of course always here for conversations when needed. Otherwise we'll chat at our next review. See you then. Bye.